so when we look at icons and iconography then, and we think about the scope in which icons are accepted within Christianity, what is the scope of that? Is it an Orthodox product? Is it a accepted Catholic product? Is it a art form? Is it a monastic or just what is the scope of iconography in Christianity?
It's interesting, and with any of these questions, it would probably take us books to answer. But today, you will find many people that grew up in iconoclastic churches, Christian traditions that absolutely forbid the making of images because of the Ten Commandments and the prohibition against the veneration of images. They would be very iconoclastic, and yet I have given classes to Methodists and Baptists and people who love this imagery because it's speaking to another dimension within their own lives, and also because there's so much less that's dividing Christians today, or there should be. On the other hand, but generally, we would think of Orthodox Christians, Russian, Greeks, Ukrainians, people from another place in the world, especially from what used to be part of the Byzantine Empire, as people that have carried on with this tradition. However, we know today that with classes being taught all over North America by a number of different teachers, and classes tend to be actually very popular and well attended, that iconography, something of the spirit of iconography, is speaking to a society that maybe has become overwhelmed by too much imagery. We have televisions and computer screens and advertisements.
And we have imagery all over the internet.
Imagery all over that's just kind of bombarded with us. And the icons are a way to look, unlike all of this other imagery, to look with eyes other than just these eyes. If you look at the icon with just these eyes, you will only see an art object or technical work. As one prays with the icon, one learns to see from the eyes of their heart a God who is loving us and desires to be in communion with his people. And so
when you look at over the centuries in the context of preparation of icons, are they in Rome, the majority of them? Are they in other countries? Where does one go in search of early icons?
Actually, most of the earliest icons, unfortunately, because of this plague of iconoclasm, which actually, even though we say we had a formal plague in the 7th and 8th century, a heretical movement of people destroying Christian art, that it has come back. It comes back all the time. There are Christians all the time being offended by imagery as something that's a barrier between the Christian worship community and their God, and so they tear down the images, they whitewash their buildings, and it comes from a misunderstanding. But at the same time, there has been this renaissance of icons, but the original icons were almost all destroyed. The Byzantine emperor sent out soldiers, and it was required. Almost thousands and thousands upon icons were destroyed, except in an odd place, a Muslim-controlled caliphate area of St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai Peninsula.
And what countries does it find itself in now?
That is part of Egypt today.
Part of Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. And so, who's protecting that? Is that the Coptic Christians, or various religions, or
That is under the Greek Orthodox Church's jurisdiction, I believe, one of their jurisdictions, and there are Greek monks
Oh, I
there
see. Okay.
at that monastery that continue to maintain the library, the church,
Mm-hmm.
the works of art that are there. But those are the only icons that we have left. There are few in places like Rome that were preserved from the iconoclastic attacks.
Okay. So if I'm someone who's interested in participating in the writing of an icon, which is the more proper term as I understand it, what does it take to do that? We started with a tracing,
Mm-hmm.
and how do we take that tracing and proceed from that to a completed icon?
There are many ways, Leo, in which icons can be put down and communicated onto canvases, onto walls and frescoes. But the most common and most traditional way has been always to paint them onto wooden boards. Remember, for the Christian, the tree plays an interesting role in salvation history. We see that our first parents ate from a tree,
Mm-hmm.
and it led to death. And now, in the image of the cross, a tree, we have this new fruit, as it were, of divine life being offered to us, a death that conquers death by death on a tree. And so the Christian looks at the tree, looks at wood as being a great source of communicating this theological life, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for the most part, we communicate the icons on wooden boards. And those boards are then layered with a linen cloth. First, they're soaked in rabbit skin glue,
Mm-hmm.
which helps stabilize the wood. Then we wrap a linen cloth, and we are mindful that our Lord was taken off the cross, wrapped in linen,
Mm-hmm.
and placed in a new tomb. The linen is a reference to the fact that God will be made manifest through the icons. But the linen practically helps to secure the gesso, which is crushed marble and rabbit skin glue,
Mm-hmm.
which is then very smoothly layered onto that linen.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the rabbit skin glue, which is its bonding agent. That is smoothed out. Then we apply an image,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually traced on.
And so how do we go from the tracing to apply it to the wood?
We usually have just through a pencil drawing, the graphite through the tracing has been communicated onto this gesso board.
Oh, I see.
Then
Okay.
we scratch the image in, because if you're going to paint with egg tempera, the traditional method, one of the traditional methods of painting icons, you'll find that you will lose your image after many layers of egg yolk paint.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So to preserve the image, we scratch it in with a little incising tool.
I see. Okay. Okay.